I'd like to tell you a true story about the twins, Richard and Kathryn. But where do I start?
If memory serves me right.
It was a typical Sydney summer Sunday afternoon. A busy church service always involves a cherished invitation to the Evans house for a BYO lunch afterwards. And on this particular occasion, we had several guests, including the Shellback family, who, like us, drove a Tarago and had a car full of kids. I seem to remember that it was a busy day at church, and when I got home, I
don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed.
And so I got my own lunch. I sat down to eat, started reading the paper, and I was relieved that my sister Kelly, or maybe someone else, had put the twins down for their afternoon nap. What I didn't realise was that on the way home, the twins, Richard and Kathryn, were feeling a bit restless. The twins were in the back of the Tarago whispering to each other.
It's there.
And so, as the Tarago parked, opened the door, and our families turned right to walk into the house, the twins, Richard and Kathryn, turned left and headed for the park.
Bye, bye, bye.
Apparently, they had a great time on the swings. But, as with all, happens with all things, they did get bored and thought about coming home, but what was that in the distance? Is that the shops? Should we go to the shops?
We've come too far to give up who we are.
And so my 4-year-old siblings decided that they would walk by themselves down to Kmart rather than head home. Is that a good idea? Richard, of course, walked to the shops backwards. Kathryn was looking forward to doing some shopping in her Sunday best.
These boots are made for walking. That's just what they'll do.
Walking around Kmart, it wasn't too long before the twins caught the attention of the shop assistants, who promptly took them to the centre manager. I don't remember exactly what the lady promised the twins. It was probably just a
Milkshake.
Once they got to the desk, they made the announcement over the PA and waited for the parents to come and collect them. And waited, and waited.
Tick-tock on the clock.
So then they decided to... After 30 minutes of waiting, they realised they had a problem and they called the police.
LSP, someone help me.
Meanwhile, back at the Evans house, it's about 3 o'clock now. And now that I have finished reading my paper and drinking my coffee, I am expecting the twins to wake up and... And being the glutton for punishment that I am, I go to investigate and find room after room empty. I'm feeling pretty... And then it dawned on me. The twins are missing.
Oh my gosh.
I grabbed Sister Kelly aside and tried to explain the situation.
I see you looking at me like I'm some kind of freak. Get up out of your seat. Why don't you do something?
We grabbed Mum and explained the situation to her. She stresses out and feels like everyone is saying, where your children are at all times. But Frank Muscullo pops up and advises Mum to...
Don't worry, be happy.
And Maureen DeLuca pipes up and says, yeah.
Just dance, gonna be okay.
But I feel responsible.
But I don't feel like dancing, no, so no dancing today. Don't feel like dancing.
But Mighty Mum stands up quietly but firmly says,
I'm not gonna give up.
and then a little louder she adds,
There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark.
of course, I know what we need to do, says Mum.
We got to pray just to make it today. I said we pray.
Still feeling guilty and hoping everything would just go away, I asked Mum if we really need the twins. I mean, isn't William trouble enough?
But without you, all I'm going to be is incomplete.
But of course, Mum wants her twins back. She sends us out to get help. She says to search,
Whenever, wherever.
but it gives Michael Britzer an idea.
I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle.
And then Tim Britzer explains he'll find them even faster because
I believe I can fly.
when I look at him strangely, he says, no, really?
I'm like a bird, I only fly away.
But what about me? I don't have a bike. I don't think I can fly. Well, I guess it's just down to my 2 feet then.
But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more.
And then we were off. It felt like we were searching. By around 4 o'clock, with no twins, we started getting desperate, and Kelly walked into Kmart and straight to the manager's office.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Don't tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
The manager gave Kelly the good news. We found your missing kids.
Everybody dance now!
If you want them back, social services is going to have to interview your mother and prove that she is safe to have the children back. It'll do you no good to keep calling the police. You'll just have to wait until 5 p.m. when they have time to see you. So the manager asked some basic questions and listened to our answers. Then we went home to wait for the social services people to come along. I gave Mum some good last-minute advice. Just remember, Mum, when the cops ask you what you're doing, keep your... When they did come, they asked us to explain what happened. When Mum finished, they shook their head and said, Mum tried to explain. She tried to say sorry, but the cop would have none of it.
It's too late to apologize. It's too late.
The social services spoke to her for another 30 minutes, but soon they finished and left. She emerged and explained,
Try to make me go to rehab. I won't go.
but all is well. She passed her parenting test, and then the twins jumped out of the car and ran to Mum in open arms. Later that night, as the twins were being tucked into bed, Richard looked up innocently to Mum and said,
Sorry, Mama. I never meant to hurt you.
but Mum just replied,
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
and then he added,
Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten.
Happy birthday, Richard and Kathryn, from Ben and Rhonda, Lauren, Jeremy, and Claire.
Gangnam Style, hey. Sexy lady, oh, 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 oh. Open Gangnam Style, hey. Sexy lady, oh, 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 oh. Open Gangnam Style.
Hey, that reminds me. Did I ever tell you about that time the twins were left at home when we drove off to church?